All righty, welcome to this episode of the Rolling Thunder podcast. Spence, how are you doing today?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
Man,
you rested up?
I'm going to be honest. I'm struggling adjusting back to the real world after after a few days on the road. How about you?
I'm not struggling adjusting to the real world. I have my body feels achy and tired, and I've slept 10 or 11 hours the last 3 nights. I'm more slap out, so I'm glad to be back to the real world. To be honest, that was hard hunting for us. How about y'all?
Yeah, it was a long couple of days. So we ended up not too far south of where you guys were. So it's a bit of a drive. Luckily we had 3 guys in the truck, splitting it, which helped. But yeah, it's a long time to sit in the back seat.
It takes it out of you for sure, riding in the truck that long.
So did y'all end up having a good trip?
We did have a good trip. It was everybody. Well, the boys are not home, but they're in the United States, and they've got her pointed this direction. So, barring a catastrophe in the last 10 or 12 hours, I think everybody will have made it home safe and sound. So,
right.
they seem to be making good progress, and now they're in that realm where if something happens, I can go get them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so, you normally make the trip up north, so compared to years past, how did you feel like it was? What did you see? Did everything look on par? I know it's dry in some places.
Man, I really hate to admit this, but it was the poorest hunting I've seen in 15, 16 years. We saw in the area we were in, we saw a tremendous amount of hunting pressure, and I hate to be the guy that's like beating that drum of hunting pressure and all that, but man, every group of ducks that we found was being bumped around by 3 or 4 different groups of hunters. A lot of outfitter pressure, to be honest, more outfitter pressure in that area that I've seen in the last few years. And I thought the water was okay. It wasn't as dry as it was last year, but we're still not back to kind of the amount of water that we had, say, 6 or 7 years ago. So all in all, I thought the duck numbers were fine. I just felt like there were more people hunting them, which made it difficult. We typically up there on the prairie, you don't expect to have to wage war with ducks that are smart. They usually smell like eggshells and are happy to see the first spinner that they put their eyes on. And I felt like these ducks had a PhD in late January open field sets.
Yeah, we let's see, the second day of our trip, we ended up hunting some water in the afternoon to just try to finish up our ducks. A little loaf pond, little staging pond, kind of in the middle. Yeah. We hadn't had a whole lot of hunter pressure or hunter interaction. But man, I called Kyle Wojo and I was like, man, these ducks act like they're late January birds back home. Like they didn't care about the spinner. Like they didn't flare off, but they didn't want to finish quite right. They were acting really finicky, and yeah, it was definitely not what everybody kind of makes it out to be as just being easy. Yeah. They definitely took a little coaxing to get them to
act right. We also us and y'all as well. We hit that super moon, which really. We had a lot of days where we had ducks feeding real good and aggressive in the afternoon, and they just wouldn't show the next morning. And I, to be honest, I've not seen that in Canada because they don't feed at night up there. But I do felt for whatever reason I felt like it slowed down how much they fed in the morning, and when they did feed in the morning, they fed really late. But you know what? Tripp got to go with me this year, and it was the first time he's done a freelance trip, and he had an absolute blast. We correlated it with fall break, and so we didn't kill as many ducks, but we had some great hunts, and I can promise you that he's not upset about spending his week of fall break in Canada. So all in all, I don't want to be all negative Nancy. I mean, we had a blast, and everybody's safe and home and glad to see their loved ones. And so anytime you can make a trip like that and have some hunting success and watch the sunrise and watch the sunset and, be thankful for the good Lord's blessing, that's a win. That's a win-win, actually.
Yep, absolutely. So. Absolutely. Yeah, at the end of the day, we can't be mad about the opportunity to get out and do what we love to do.
That's exactly right. So.
Well, to all our listeners out there, I apologize. We didn't have an episode this past week while we were all out seeing the country a little bit. But I think we have a good one for us this week. We're reaching back in the archives to a conversation that you had a little bit ago, Spence. Why don't you give everybody a heads up about what we're about to
this
hear?
ought to be a really great episode. So this episode is with my buddy Jeff Farmer, who owns White Oak Stuck Woods and is one of the founding partners of Shin Gear. And the third member on this episode is our brother Keith Allen. And so this is me and Jeff and Keith sitting in the tower at White Oaks watching the ducks come in that evening to feed. And basically, the ducks do different things at White Oaks, but a real common thing is late in the afternoon for ducks to come from miles and miles around to White Oaks because of how much food Jeff has planted and how much habitat he's created. And so the late afternoon feeding time, and then evening roost is a time of just incredible duck flight. And if you're on social media, you've seen tons of Jeff's videos from the tower. And I mean, our favorite saying at the tower is, man, you should see this through the binoculars. And it's really true, because whatever you can see with your naked eye through the binoculars is 100 times more. And so this is a really cool episode for a lot of reasons, but one of them is just that Jeff has, I think this was the first podcast Jeff had ever done. There's been one published since this one. But I held this one back just because it was in January last year, and by the time that we had edited it, because it's kind of a long episode, by the time Girk had edited it, we were out of duck season, and I was like, this episode needs to sit in the archives until pre-duck season kind of mood sets in October. And so that's here we are, third week of October, approaching Halloween, and I feel like it's a great time because ducks are on the move. I mean, we just had that big migrator moon last few days, and the weather's changing. Heck, we've had a couple heavy frosts here in the Mid-South area, and stuff is dying back. Like if you're a waterfowl hunter, this is our time of year, and this is the time to, check this episode out. And, the thing, Chris, I'll just tell you about this episode is you're going to hear Jeff kind of tell some of his story, and Jeff's got lots and lots of people out there that, are haters just because they're jealous of what he has. And I don't know everything about Jeff's life in his early years, but Jeff is about 7 years older than me. And Jeff is a truly a self-made, successful businessman. He's taken tremendous amount of risk. And so the one thing that I really admire about Jeff, and I've admired this since it's how we became friends. I reached out to him and told him that I admired this thing and asked him if I could learn about it. And we just became buds in the process. But what I admire about Jeff is that he is truly an entrepreneur in the sense of he didn't have a big trust fund, a giant pile of money. Like he put together a couple of deals in his regular line of business and figured out how to be successful at that first, and then figured out how to, turn that into a very successful recreational investment. And so Jeff is a pretty cool picture of the American dream. I mean, he's turned something that is a hobby that he's really passionate about into a successful business, and also operated a successful business outside of his passion along the way. And all those things happened pre Shin Gear. And so Shin Gear, and the story there was really birthed out of the success of some of the recreational real estate stuff that he had done. And so I just feel like there's a lot of cool life lessons and inspirational things about doing well with what you have at your disposal. Whether you have half acre, 1 acre, 100 acres, 1,000 acres, or no acres, you have access to the same opportunities in the United States of America that any of the rest of folks do. And so, I think what's really cool is you're going to hear the story of a guy who is as eat up about duck hunting as anybody that listens to this show. He grew up hunting public, and just like all the rest of us that grew up hunting public, always kind of had that nagging thought in the back of his head, boy, I wish I had a place where I could control the variables. I could decide where I hunted. I could decide how much pressure there was. I could decide when to call, when to hunt, when not to hunt, all those things. And that driving passion led him to successful ventures in business, which led him into successful ventures into recreational properties. And I mean, what's more American than turning your own dirt into, you know, an infamous, world famous, you know, flooded timber duck hole. So, cheers to you, Jeff.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's haters out there, but there's nobody that can deny, you know, what he's done, and it's a real cool story for sure.
Yep.
So if you're out there, hopefully you enjoy this one. Sit back and maybe come shake our hand this weekend at Film Fest if you make your way around Memphis.
Yeah, we'll see you this weekend at the Shin Gear Film Festival for sure.
All righty, here we go.
86 years and over 15 million acres later, Ducks Unlimited, along with our volunteers and supporters, continue to lead the way for the future of waterfowling. Whether it's attending a local event or joining our volunteer team, you too can play a role in the next 15 million acres. Visit www.ducks.org and find out how you can leave your mark for generations to come. Ducks Unlimited, the world leader in wetlands and waterfowl conservation.
Bottomland is Mossy Oak's original camo pattern created by Toxie Hayes over 3 decades ago. This pattern preserves the original design while applying advanced technology for increased effectiveness. The same field-proven components and colors, the same dirt and bark elements, the same ability to blend into dark environments and obscure a hunter's outline from every angle. Mossy Oak Bottomland.
Get 'em. Welcome, folks. Y'all come on in and make yourself at home. This here, well, this is the Rolling Thunder Podcast, your home for all things Rolling Thunder. This episode is brought to you by Mossy Oak, because everything is better in Bottomland. Kent Cartridge, quality matters, performance counts. Shin Gear, waterfowl gear that is built better. Benelli USA, dominate the skies. And Ducks Unlimited, the world's leader in wetlands and waterfowl conservation.
There we are. So we're sitting in the tower here at White Oaks Duckwoods, and I'm joined by Mr. Jeff Farmer and Mr. Keith Allen.
We use the term Mr. very loosely.
Yeah. It's a gender classification for people that are older than you.
That ain't your audience, Spence. That's your audience. I'm on the wrong podcast.
Just trying to be polite and courteous. But the sun is setting, and there are ducks starting to mill around in every direction, far as the eye can see and farther. So this is officially Mr. Farmer's first podcast.
I feel pretty important.
We've been trying to get him here.
I told my wife I was doing a podcast.
Yeah, I wish the world could appreciate the tone of voice in which Summer said, nah.
She wasn't impressed.
She was not.
I told her I was kind of a big deal. And no, she reminds me daily I am not.
We all need a little bit of that in our life. I mean, it's healthy. It's not enjoyable, but it's healthy.
I was obviously joking. But,
that's right.
Summer she's like, "Oh, you're doing a podcast." Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start with an easy question. Did y'all get them this morning?
We did.
Because I've only been here a little bit.
I can tell you, Spence, we always get them here, but it's how ugly or not ugly it is.
Some days it's a grind. That's right. But today was pretty. It's been a little different. We got some weather up north and new ducks moving in, and we needed some new ducks. We've been holding a lot, but they've been stale, I'd say. That's how you'd put it.
Yeah.
They kind of got in a pattern where they were leaving all the fields in the surrounding area and coming back to the woods, but they were all doing it in the first 30 minutes, hours. And so if you didn't get them quick, it kind of stunk. But today was different. They kind of trickled in. I think there's some cold weather coming, and birds are feeding up, and we had a pattern change, and I was glad for it. It was a good hunt. Had my dad and Keith, and had my daughter and my son and their friends. My daughter went off to college this afternoon, and so I got to spend today with my dad and both my older kids and my buddy Keith, and we had a glorious time. Everybody had a great day.
That's awesome.
Spence, we called today and they came in. So that's what we were hoping to happen. And I say that because it hadn't been like that the last few days. Yeah. It's been, that was a pretty good lick, Keith or Jeff.
Yeah. Yesterday, I swear to God, I flared ducks from 250 yards away. Like, I didn't even know they could see me, and they were flaring from the hole. It was wind. Cloudy. I feel like I'm glowing when I'm in the woods. They see the
which pattern? What pattern? What pattern we have on? Yeah.
What's that called above the shin? The diacritic. Yeah. They're like, oh, he's got the cream diacritic. Oh, hey, there's Jeff. So they see everything.
You bring up a valid point here, and for the history of somebody's going to listen to this in a couple years and not know that we're sitting here. Early January 2024. So give us, Mr. Farmer, your version. If I call you Mr. Farmer 2 more times, you're going to throw something at me. Yeah. Give us your version of where we're at in the migration and this year. This is a colossally down year in a lot of ways.
And I have so much to say on that, and I so little time, I feel like, but there's so much to say on it, and there's so many differing opinions, and so this is just an opinion. I'm just a guy that watches ducks, but I do watch ducks, and I watch a lot of ducks, and I watch them daily, so I don't know anything. I'm not trained. I didn't go to school in biology. I'm not a biologist, but I do sit and study duck behavior on a daily basis, so I can give good information, but it is anecdotal from one farm in Arkansas.
Sure.
So it's very limited, and so I know it's limited. But what I saw is that we picked up ducks in early November, and we picked up a lot because I had a lot of water, and the rest of Arkansas doesn't, other than mostly big clubs. I don't even think much public land has water, which is very different. Even some of the places that normally flood, Donaldson, Rainy Break, they're really low on water. So we held a lot of ducks, but, people come up to the tower and they'll see a lot of ducks and they're like, oh my God, it's going to be amazing. And we're killing ducks, but we're having to kind of grind to do it. They're stale. It's been the same old ducks we've been shooting all year.
Yep. And you've probably been hearing that at the shop too, right? I mean, that's kind of what everybody's been saying, is that we've got the same ducks we've had since Halloween 1st of November. Yeah. I mean, that's what I've heard over and over.
We had a big front at Halloween.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's not the exact same ducks that were here at Halloween. The ducks aren't that stagnant, but the ducks are acting in a way that is clear that they're short of water, they're short of habitat, they don't have places to go, so they sit here and there's no place for them to trade. They get up and they go and they find a little spot here, a little spot there, but it's different. Those fields are hunted. There's very little habitat. Hurricane doesn't have a bunch of habitat. There's not habitat up and down the Cache River. When I do my best, when white oaks is its best hunting, it's not when we hold the most ducks, but when white oaks, the hunting is the best at white oaks, it's when the Cache River's out and those ducks are coming back and forth. I'll sit up at the tower and I will watch ducks by the tens of thousands leave every night. And I'm anxious. I'm an anxious person. I get all uptight. I'm like, oh my God, they're leaving. They're never coming back. What are we going to do? And I do it every day, like 30 days in a row. Keith is like,
we secretly laugh at you.
Yeah.
He's an anxious person.
Idiot. Excuse my language. You freaking idiot. They're going to be right back like tomorrow. But then they trickle in all day. And we had the trackers on the ducks a couple years ago, and they'd be gone for 2 days, and then they'd come back, and they'd go up to Weldon, or they'd go over to Beataville, or they'd go down to Little Dixie, or they'd go into Bald Knob National Wildlife Refuge, and they'd leave for a day or two, and then they'd come back, and they'd kind of bounce around, but I was always a place they were trading with and from, if not on a daily basis, every few days. And that's when White Oaks is really at its best. And that's not what we have this year because there's just not water.
Mm-hmm.
So the ducks are stale, but things have changed this week a little bit. I think it's been an extremely warm year. All the reports that I'm hearing, and Spence and Keith, y'all know this, right? It's they're.
I mean, Christmas was like the first real weather that anybody north of us got.
And it was 60 degrees on our Christmas.
Right, and raining.
Right,
like
that's right.
Drizzly. Not enough rain to matter, but wet.
The difference is right now they're stirring with a purpose, right? On the farm. I don't think we've had a big influx from that weather that's coming, but what he's had is whatever they're doing it with a purpose, or instead of, as we say, freely frolicking, right?
An attitude change.
Yeah. I mean, and so you hit the call, they bank up, and they're coming in, right? And we noticed it at noon yesterday. It started raining, and literally the light switch went on.
Yeah, it was a different deal yesterday.
Yeah, they just turned on with a purpose, and we're duck hunting now instead of dealing with a bunch of tame critters, right, that are in one herd.
Yeah.
And, oh, boy, it's been rough.
So will you give us just kind of some broad parameters, like describe the farm? What do you have in timber, ag, like for people listening that wish they were sitting in the tower, describe the farm and answer the kind of the obvious questions you would answer for somebody that was sitting here with us.
Yeah, total acreage, Jeff.
Well, I would start by saying, I get asked that question. I'm almost embarrassed to answer. And that's as honest and self-introspective as I can be. I've been blessed beyond my understanding with somehow being the steward of this. I don't know how. I'm just a guy who somehow maneuvered into buying and owning and figuring this out. So it's embarrassing, really, for me to say I own 4,500 acres here. I don't feel like I'm worthy or deserving, or I didn't. So I feel awkward when I ask that question.
I get that, and I appreciate that.
I do. But it's 4,500 acres. It is about 2,000 acres of mature timber. I can artificially flood most of that. I'm a little lower on my artificial flood this year just because the river's at 13 foot.
because the whole empty. World is.
Like, I've spent enough money on diesel to, like, the Saudi.
He thought he was flooding it with diesel.
Right. Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia sent me a thank you card. It's a bad deal.
Your Google search is is diesel evaporate at the same rate that water does?
It's unbelievable. So we turned the pumps off before Christmas, and I'm probably at 80% flood. And the truth is, normally when I never pump beyond this level. We just get some help from Mother Nature.
Sure.
We had almost no help. So I'm probably 80% flooded this year. Anyway, long story short, we've got a couple thousand acres of mature timber. Most of that is flooded, probably 1,500 acres, 1,500 acres. I've got 700 or 800 acres of ag land. That's just unencumbered, no WRP easements, nothing. And we manage that for duck food. We have 700 acres, a little over 700 acres of WRP, which we highly manage for duck habitat. And we have, a whole bunch of, we probably have 800 or 900 acres of in the bins that's duck habitat. I can flood about half of that. I haven't flooded any of that this year, though. So that's probably, I don't know if you did all that math, but that probably gets somewhere close to those bins are there's a little bit of mature timber in there, and it's a lot of new growth tree. I say new growth; they're 20-year-old trees, willows. It's real ridgy stuff. It's not ideal duck habitat. The river gets out.
Yeah, I was going to say that's just because the current and the river, and like when it gets out, you got a bunch of sloughs and stuff in there and stuff.
Yeah, I mean that's broad strokes. There's 300 or 400 acres you can really do a lot with. I have not this year because to flood that, I basically have to take the water away from my woods, and it's such a tough year to flood. When the river's this low, my pumps are a lot less efficient, so I can flood at half the rate, same cost, half the rate, and I just haven't flooded that very, very south end. So
before you,
there's a lot of ducks starting
there. I was like, man, even I'm noticing it, and generally Jeff can't even talk with their duck flood.
I apologize.
No, I don't blame you because it's strong.
Before you
starting to get
describe this place.
Before what now?
Before you describe this place.
This place was ideal duck habitat. Somehow, through a long story that I won't get into, the major block of timber was saved from being cleared for cheap crop ground. Basically, soybeans got to be a popular crop to farm in Arkansas and the Delta in the 70s and 80s. And all of the ground that we wish was still in mature hardwood timber was cleared so that you could grow 30 bushel beans. And somehow, again, it's a long story and no need to go through it now, it was saved. And so you had a couple 1,000-acre block of timber. A lot of this, the farm is a peninsula. It's got the White River on the west side, and the river takes a big turn and basically turns back to the east. And so, and then Taylor Bay, which is a slough that opens up into a pretty wide, couple 100-yard wide body of water, is the whole eastern border, and the White River is the south and west border. So I have this whole peninsula, which makes it pretty unique because I can really control access and people who are around here, other than people who come in on boats, which they do. Anyway.
Not usually more than once.
So it's a peninsula, and a good part of the peninsula was cleared, and eventually the Stump Buster Act was passed, and the Corps of Engineers stopped the clearing of the rest of this timber. So before I owned it, it was just very typical to what you see as good duck hunting ground. It was really tough farmland on what was the ag acres because you were subject to a White River flood. And then you had 2,000 acres of timber that never got cleared. And then you had these two bends in the river that are 900 acres that were timber. So you got about 3,000 acres of timber altogether, over 3,300 acres of timber altogether, or a little more. And when the White River got out, which it does, they say on average 2 out of 5 years or 3 out of 5 years, it was incredible duck hunting. It was really known. I called Jody Pagan and said, Jody, do you know anything about this farm, here at Augusta, and told him where it was. He said, oh, hell yeah, I know that farm. It's the best place to kill a mallard in the state of Arkansas if the White River's at 31 foot. So it was.
He's not wrong.
And ask him what he's trying to replicate with this farm right now. 31 feet.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Well, my point is, it didn't take a genius to figure out this place could kill ducks.
Sure.
It just didn't have consistent water.
Sure.
And the whole game was, how can I create habitat for ducks consistently and not just wait on the river?
Okay. And so when you had the opportunity to start piecing things together, and building something, like what was I'm trying to decide how to ask this question, because the thing that's so interesting to me is that I've had the privilege of knowing you now for 5 or so ish years, 6 years, something like that.
Man, it seems like
a lot longer than that, but every year it's like it's a little different. Something's different. I mean, they're wild critters. They migrate, right? And so, it's always good. It's just like, I mean, there've been years where it's like you couldn't run them out of the Missouri hole, and there've been years you couldn't run them out of the Tennessee hole, and you couldn't, like all the factors. So what I'm trying to build up to is when you first, you closed on the deal and you first started, like, what was your first goal versus what is your goal now?
Get paid.
I mean,
get paid. Figure out how to con a bank into lending me money to buy this thing.
Yeah, and then keep it.
Yeah,
heard that.
Figure out how to not get foreclosed.
Yeah,
which somehow I managed to do by the grace of God. There were some years it's been touch and go. People don't see that on Instagram. If your life was as cool as you portray it on Instagram,
no doubt. It's a great illustration of where we're at because, I mean, you got right here because you're obsessed with watching mallard ducks. I mean, and like as I'm trying to get you to answer a question, you're getting the binoculars to look at mallard ducks trying to land over.
Spence, I've always been fascinated by the fact that Jeff isn't positioned and has not been positioned in life much differently than a lot of guys that have leaned up against a tree in a WMA.
Exactly.
And I say this all the time, no one has ever hunted the woods ever and not had a thought in their mind. Could you imagine if you could own these woods?
Oh yeah.
And the biggest difference between that rascal and the rest of us is he just didn't accept that he couldn't.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And that's
I got luck. That's not.
No. You were resolved. And let me finish my point. And not to brag on him, I'll shut up because we want to hear him. But the thing about it is that he did have some know-how. Right. Mm-hmm. As to, financially banking because of his day job.
Sure.
His day job assisted him in not so much financially, but in the know-how of how to make it happen. And that he probably doesn't even realize that.
Well, no, that's a fair point. Like my day job is a real estate developer. So I make a living and have made a living seeing a raw piece of land and saying, how can I turn this into a greater use and create dollars off of that, create a delta? And that was either building a shopping center next to a Walmart in some town or building an apartment complex in an oil field town where there was outsized demand. And so I had, to your point, I understood how to view a development project, not to buy something completed.
That's right.
The only thing I'd ever done was cobbled together money from friends, family, or investors and said, hey, I see something over there worth $1 million, and if you give me $1 million, I can buy it and put another $1 million into it, and we can turn it into something better. Mm-hmm. And so...
and that's the thing that the guy leaning up against a tree wishing they could own something doesn't have. Understand. That's the perspective.
Sure.
So I saw this as a raw piece of unimproved ground and thought, wait a minute, if I take that and I spend some dollars, I can make it I can increase the value a lot more than the dollars I spend to improve it.
Sure.
So while buying this property was never a money-making endeavor, because I assure you it is not. I didn't have money. How I managed to come up with the down payment for this farm is the biggest stroke of luck that's ever happened on planet Earth. And God bless my wife for just going along with it. Like we were we were broke. And I started a business and started building some shopping centers and made just enough money to get by. And I sold 4 shopping centers and I had to sell them all. They had to all line up and sell and actually close to separate buyers in the short period of time to have the money. At the same time, I had this property under contract, and it's like the stars all perfectly aligned, and the money was there, and I took every single penny I did not take 1 single cent from those sales. I did a 1031 tax-free exchange, and I took 0 money from selling. The first time I'd ever made money for my family. And I somehow convinced Summer.
He couldn't pay the bills with it, but he got him a duck farm.
I somehow convinced Summer.
Yeah.
Like, trust me on this, dear. And she's not a hunter at all. But she had faith in me. And I'm thankful to her
Yeah.
about that. There's a lot of
Me three.
there's a lot of people whose spouses would not have been on board with, yes, we'll continue to struggle financially so you can chase this dream.
Yeah.
And my sales pitch to her was, look, dear, I can't lose money on this. Mm-hmm. I believe it with every part of my heart. If things don't go well in my business and I need to sell this, we'll be okay. I can sell this and I can at least get the money I have in it out of it. Just trust me, we won't lose money. And she said, okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I think back on that 10 years ago or 9 years ago, and I think, wow, how cool is she to go along with that?
No doubt.
I mean, I bought a really unbelievable piece of property and didn't have
That's
didn't have the money to do it. And another thing that really helped me do it is I was looking for all these partners to help to come bring in money, because I didn't know if I would have the money to do it or if the bank would lend me the money. And I had done a deal. I developed a farm that I ended up selling to Stan Jones, and that's now all the property he owns on the west side of Black River that borders Rainy Break. That's part of his big Stan Jones Mallard Lodge operation. And I developed it and sold it. It was I was in real estate, and real estate had really gotten creamed in 2008 and 9, and I was, had no money, and I survived because I sold that farm to Stan and made good money on it. And so that's kind of what I told my wife. But I had done a loan with Farmers and Merchants Bank, and this is not an ad for Farmers and Merchants Bank, but I had a banker there, Kirk Van Zant, and the guy believed in me. He said, Jeff, you don't have to have a partner.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's because Kirk Van Zant had enough sense to know, hey, wait a minute, we're going to get the collateral
asset's
worth
worth
on this.
Yeah.
I really love that piece of property. But the truth is, Kirk Van Zant believed in me. So not only did my wife go along with it, but I had a banker. At the end of the day, I had a banker who said, we believe in you, Jeff, and we're going to lend you this money because we believe that you're going to be okay on this deal. And that's the try. I owe that sucker a lot.
That's strong.
The interesting thing about hearing you tell that story is I think that's like one of the first conversations you and I had on the telephone in 2016 somewhere. I mean, you had just bought the farm, and I asked you the story about it because I wanted to get to know you, and we lived in the same town and all that kind of thing, and you said that about, the 1031 exchange, and you knew that if you could develop something like this, it had helped you survive previously, in Stan Jones, and you were like, I think I can do this. I mean,
one of the things I saw, and I'm certainly not unique, I'm not the only guy who saw it, but we were a minority, those of us who saw it. And there's going to be some other people who've developed land or bought farms. They're going to say, "Oh shit, I did the same thing as farmer." Darn right, I'm not a trailblazer here. A lot of us did that. But what I realized was that farm ground on river bottoms, where you struggle to make 30 bushel beans, and you lose your crop to an Black River overflow, a Cache River overflow, a White River overflow, is a lot more valuable with 100,000 ducks sitting on it than it is 30 bushel beans.
No doubt.
And when I took the farm that I bought that bordered Rainy Break, when I took it out of crop production, you could go into the little Sheila's Cafe, and the old timers and farmers would make fun of the dumbass city kid. Can you believe this idiot's not planting? He's paying somebody to put trees on that thing. And I didn't care.
Old dumbass.
Yeah. And maybe they were right. I don't know. But I sold it and made enough money to survive. That was the only income I had, was from selling that farm. That was the only income I had I had to sell the farm. I didn't want to. I had to because I was broke. And that was the only money we had for 3 years.
Hey, Jeff, we are in the tower. I need a duck report because I think that can you give us a duck report real quick?
The teal are flocking up now. The teal come in about 10 minutes before the mallards, and you're seeing waves of them go by. The scouts are out now.
I seriously wish they could see this. It's strong.
Yeah. Yeah, it is going to be good.
Strong is a good adjective, but it's not even remotely adequate.
That's right. That's right. Well, it hadn't gotten crazy yet, but it's brewing, as we say.
But it's brewing pretty good now, and I'd say what time we got, guys? We got 5-9. Oh yeah, boy! In 10 minutes it'll be special.
Back to the story. Yes. I didn't want to get him sidetracked, but I needed a duck report.
Yeah, there's a lot of ducks here.
It's a little distracting.
It is.
It is. And I see and watch ducks a lot, and not just from this place, but from that farm I own that borders Rainy Break. And this last week, I think they showed up about the 30th or the 31st.
Mm-hmm.
We had a significant change. I don't remember what the weather was.
No doubt.
Then, but around the 30th or 31st, the tower got from, wow, it's really impressive to, wow, I don't normally see this. And you can see the building right now. It's about to get.
All right, so the number of ducks that are coming to the farm in the afternoon, the tower show.
Yeah.
Right now, you've owned this farm 8.5, 9 years. Yeah. Rank it in the last 9 years.
This is as strong as it gets.
Why?
I don't think it's more ducks. They're concentrated. They're concentrated on food sources. And up until the last, I didn't come watch last night because it was raining, but up until last night, it was all happening at once. So the actual show, what you see.
Mm-hmm.
That is a ball of teal about like what is that? 2,001 balls?
I was going to say multiple thousands.
Yeah. And it's clearly there's another ball of them.
No, the teal are just starting. You'll see a ball.
I mean,
it'll be 10,000 come through, and then they're starting.
They look like a school of minnows.
It's crazy.
If you were snorkeling, you know.
It does.
Coming around the end of a...
You've seen them blackbirds where they get in those crazy waves. It looks like waves. They're doing some kind of dance in the air. That's what those teal look like.
Yeah.
Unreal.
So this year I certainly do not have more ducks right now than several times last year, but they were all flying all at one time. Mm-hmm. So it's one thing if you have 250,000 ducks come in over an hour. It's another thing if you have 150,000 ducks come in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That 5 to 10 minutes is absolute freaking chaos.
Mm-hmm. And
that's an exaggeration. It's real. They're coming in over 15 or 20 minutes, but it's wild.
Do you attribute that to
there's no habitat,
poor habitat, or just in the region?
Yeah, and it's Mother Nature. There's been no rain. Hurricane has no water.
Right.
The Cache River is at 3 or 4 foot. I mean,
the Mississippi River at Memphis is negative 7.5.
Black River's at under 4 feet.
Right.
I mean, it's just crazy. So there's no. That's the glory of Northeast Arkansas. Is this time of year by January? By God, you got the Cache River out.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't even have to be out. Just get it to 8.5 feet.
Right.
At least you've got a few thousand acres.
Correct.
Of
habitat.
All up and down it. That's right. None.
I mean, none. And so the ducks are certainly not holding on my farm. I mean, you'll see it. They're going to come in. They're coming in by the thousands right now from the north. I can see them coming in from the southwest, and I can see them coming from the east.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a question that's very obvious to you, but I don't think is obvious to our listeners. These ducks that we're watching fly around, they've not been here on this farm all day.
That's correct.
You agree with that? Obviously, you do, Keith.
I mean, just look.
Right. And we have a joke. We have a joke here in the tower that's like you should see these. You should see in the binoculars.
Yeah.
Because what you can see with your naked eye is a fraction of what you can see.
Right.
4 and 5 times further with binoculars. That leads me to a greater question, and you can answer this however you want to, but there is lots of on social media land where opinions are free. And there are no ramifications for verbal assault. You get a lot of criticism from hunters in the surrounding areas. You have single-handedly ruined hurricane or outlandish things like that.
Well, I hate hearing that. I mean, there's never been a guy who is more of a lover of the sport of duck hunting than me. I mean, I grew up hunting Rainy Break.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many literally hundreds of nights I spent the night in my 14-foot War Eagle boat.
Sleeping in a hole.
That's right. Before that was outlawed.
Yeah.
Resolving to have this spot.
That's right, because in Northeast Arkansas, there was no 4 a.m. rule. We were allowed to be out there all hours of the day when it was good.
To have the best spot I could because I wasn't a good duck caller, so I had to be wherever they were. I couldn't out-call Spence and Keith. I had to be where the ducks were because there was always some bastards like y'all 200 yards away.
It may have been us.
So I have a passion for the sport that is beyond the selfishness of my excitement for the hunt I get the next morning. But the people that think that I've ruined the sport, I can't control other people's opinions. I don't think I've done that. I think that on a year like this, when there's very little to no habitat in the Augusta, Arkansas area, there's none on the cache. You got Bald Knob Wildlife Refuge has got a few acres. Mm-hmm. You've got a few other private clubs. But if you don't have big areas of private land holding water and creating duck habitat, where are the 150,000 ducks that we're watching come in right now? Where are they going to go? Mm-hmm. Like, they're not going to the night. Oh, look at that ball of teal.
Oh, my goodness.
Wow.
Now that's the 5,000 I was talking about.
That's crazy.
That's a wave, and it's just starting.
To be honest, there's only been a couple breaks since we said something about it a few minutes ago. I mean, it's
look there.
Constant
look
line.
Back to the east. Here they come. Here they come. We're going to have to pause this so I can watch this.
We can resume in a minute. What I wanted to get you to say, if you're willing, is like, I realize you read those things. It bothers you. I've heard you say it bothers you, but I think, and I'm going to put some words in your mouth that I'd like for you to flesh out. But I think it bothers you because you believe in your heart, and I believe as a person who's been honored to be here a few times, I think you've made it better around here.
Well, I think that if White Oaks wasn't here, or not just White Oaks, but places like Fowler's Point or Straight Lake, the places that hold large volumes of ducks and huge amounts of habitat, man, that is wild.
It's not stopped since we started talking about it.
Look what's coming from. Look through
this is
Jeff,
multiple minutes
I'm
of
going to
a
use
continuous
Jeff's favorite
line.
quote. That's a different deal right there. That is, Jeff. That's a different deal right there.
Hey, Spence, open that window behind you, pal. Yeah, right there. I think that if I was not holding this many ducks and there weren't a couple other private areas, privately owned farms in the area, dedicating a lot of land to habitat, where are these ducks going to survive? Mm-hmm. They have to have food.
Yeah.
We got to freeze.
They got to have water too.
Well, they just won't be here. That's your point, Spence.
That's the point. So they're not, if White Oaks didn't exist, there's not 150,000 ducks scattering out on the 27, 30-acre flooded bean fields there are.
Which is
they're leaving the state. Right. They're going to the marsh.
Right.
They're going to Louisiana. They're going to Stuttgart. They're going to someplace with habitat. And this whole massive flock of birds that are getting all of their all of their food from
all their needs met.
Yeah. Yes, they don't live on this farm. They're coming in right now from God knows where.
Literally.
But without the food they're going to get all night tonight, they're not living in Northeast Arkansas. And they're living in Stuttgart or Monticello or Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Or in a year like this, where we're in the first week of January and we finally got a little bit of cold weather, they're in the places where season's closed.
That's right.
Like the northern zone of Missouri or in Illinois or in Indiana.
I understand not everybody sees it that way, and I'm not.
Sure.
And I am sympathetic to the frustrations of the guy who's hunted public land, because people don't want to hear this, but that's all I hunted forever. I mean, I owned a little. I say I owned. We started renting the Lake Charles Suites, right outside of
Rainy Brae.
Black Rock and Lynn.
Yeah,
and we leased one of those for a couple years.
Glamorous places to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, And
I've stayed there many times.
And I can't tell you how many times I've fallen asleep from the bubble hole.
Yep.
From the boat ride, not the boat ride, the car ride. It's about 14 minutes from the bubble hole back to the Lake Charles Suites. How many times I've fallen asleep because I was in the hole at 9 o'clock the morning before to save it for the group. So I get it. And I get when it's not right, everybody wants to blame someone. I'm an easy target to blame. But I really put a lot of effort into creating a habitat that creates sustainability for a large population of ducks in this part of Arkansas.
Yep.
On a singular daily basis, does that make your hunt worse or better? Maybe worse because I'm holding them that day. I would contend, or I believe, or maybe I want to believe, I don't know. I kind of believe if I didn't have all of this food and all of this habitat and this controlled pressure and a place for them to be, they wouldn't be in this part of Arkansas.
Yeah.
They'd be somewhere else.
100%.
And more than anything, what I wanted people to hear, and they're going to hear what they want to hear, right? Yeah. They're going to make their own opinion up. But what I wanted people to hear that I've heard on multiple occasions is this is not a greed thing. You're not trying to hoard the ducks here so nobody else can kill them. And I mean, that's not what this is about. I mean, I think there's a what I have noticed in you over the years is there's an obsession with this critter that's unparalleled. I think I'm obsessed with it, and every time I'm over here, I'm like, man. I mean,
there's nothing that makes me happier than hearing how everybody else around me has been murdering ducks. It's not a zero-sum game. The truth is, when White Oaks is good, usually the areas around here are better.
Yep.
And when White Oaks is sucking, everything around here sucks.
I didn't do a good job of getting to that point, but that's what I wanted people to. People don't get that if they haven't sat around 5 o'clock coffee time with you, worried about where we're going to hunt.
I can vouch for it. You can't get through a day without at least a couple times Jeff making the statement, "Man, I wish the Cache River would get out." That ends that theory that you're addressing right there.
Yep.
And he's being sincere because the reason he wants it is because our harvest is better, not the numbers on the farm, but we literally get more traffic during the day, right?
Well,
and are able to.
And everybody's killing them.
That's right. That's right.
It's like the hunting, the traffic is better at White Oaks, and the hunting is better. I clearly hold less ducks. There's a lot less ducks for me to see at the tower, and that's why it's so exciting now versus years when all the rivers are out. I'm holding less ducks, but the hunting is better. But then everybody's hunting, and that's fun. I love hearing from Jeremiah and Justin and Dustin and
at the co-op,
Jeff Hoggard and all them boys.
The co-op crew.
Oh, we murdered them.
Yeah.
There's nothing fires me up more than seeing Buster Douglas not Buster Douglas.
Cooper.
Scratch that. Yeah. Buster Cooper at Busted Duck. I see their post on Instagram of them murdering them. You know, that's good. I mean, we're all in this together, and I believe a rising tide lifts all ships. And, so anyway, but I think this is a point that I think most people don't realize is that I'm a guy that grew up hunting Rainy Break. I hunted Rainy Break for years and years and years. And my dad and I bought a little cabin up there after we rented the Lake Charles Suites or whatever. And we bought a little cabin between my dad and I, and we bought it with another guy. I mean, we were sharing it, just like every duck camp in Arkansas. There was 3 or 4 of us went together.
Bunk beds in every room.
Yes, 100%. And actually, I didn't buy it.
Yeah.
My dad bought it.
Yeah.
And
you spent more time there than he did.
That's right.
Just
my dad and a guy from Nashville bought a tiny little house for $30,000, you know, that they got a loan on. Next to the Gerald Howard's gas station in Lynn, Arkansas. It was the only one there. Y'all bought gas there. Probably bought turkey.
Actually, I put my waders on there many a morning because there's a light there. That's the only place you could get dressed.
And the man made turkey calls.
Yeah.
He was a world-class turkey caller. And so everybody knew Mr. Gerald. Well, I bought the house. No, I did not. I didn't buy anything. My dad and another guy bought the house next door to it. And that was hunting camp. There was 3 guys from Nashville, and there's 5 of us. That was our hunting camp. So, and we didn't own any private land. We hunted Rainy Break exclusively. And when Rainy Break stunk, everybody'd go home, and I was hard-headed enough. I'd just go go down to Cutoff Creek, or I'd go down to Biomeda, and I didn't know anything about it. I'd go out and figure it out, and I'd put my boat in about daylight and
do your best.
Do my best and hunt it for 2 or 3 days, because it was damn depressing when Rainy Break would run out of ducks, Yeah.
And
so
because
I'm just a guy that hunted public his whole life and didn't strike it rich. I mean, people are like, if I was as rich as people think I am on Instagram, by God, I wouldn't be doing a podcast that Spence offered.
Well, you forget, though, that a duck hunter considers richness as having ducks.
Right,
and you are one of the wealthiest men in the world.
That's right. There are multiple currencies.
That's right.
All right, fair point.
If ducks is your currency, my man is
But we're also
Elon Musk.
Yeah, but let's be honest. We're 3 men sitting in a room who have all floated some crazy duck idea to their wife.
Oh, yeah.
At some point in time.
We're on
and
one right
only
now.
one of the 3 of us have successfully won that argument.
Yeah,
so, I mean, I have lost much lesser battles.
Absolutely. Well, I hunted Rainy Break for a long time and was fortunate enough to make enough dollars and had the right opportunity come up at the right time. And kind of Keith said it before, I can't tell you how many nights I spent the night looking up at the stars out of my 1436 War Eagle boat with the 18 horsepower Nissan and thought, man, what if I could just own 100 acres out here so that the clown wouldn't show up and blow my duck hunt up.
Just so you can improve your experience.
Man.
6 minutes before shooting hours wouldn't mess up my hunt. And
awesome.
And I just never... It never dawned on me that it could be real.
Yeah.
And... somehow through some stroke of luck, it happened. And people make their own luck. Luck is, I had to work hard and had to be focused on it. I mean, there's a lot of things I did. It wasn't just luck, but it also took a lot of luck.
Yeah. It's a combination of all those things.
20 years ago, his duck hunting experience was a 1436 War Eagle. How many of us have had one of those boats?
I still have one. And that hadn't run in a couple of years. I say hadn't run. It runs. It hadn't been utilized in the woods in a couple of years, but I still get it ready.
And how he didn't get that his first year hunting.
No.
Just like the rest
you buy
of us.
Up. You trade up.
Well,
I didn't have a boat. I borrowed Dad's.
Yeah.
And I split. I had a college buddy named Brad Hill, and I had to go in halvesies with him because I couldn't afford the
rest
boat.
of us.
So I shopped. I bought the trailer at one place, some cheap trailer, some used trailer with
bearings running out.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bad deal. It was like $300 for the trailer.
I mean, it's real world. That's what people live now.
So I bought the trailer from one place, bought the War Eagle boat from a dealer in West Memphis, shopped everywhere there was, found the cheapest deal I could find, and bought a Nissan motor from a dealer in Memphis, somewhere up in Millington or somewhere. I don't remember where it was. It was
on Highway 14 Marine was the only Nissan dealer.
What on earth am I going to? But that was the cheapest motor.
Was it a 9.9 or a 15?
It was an 18.
An 18?
It was an 18. That was, I don't know how I came up with that deal, but I had the 18.
That was Nissan's deal. They had a 25 block that they sold on an 18 carburetor.
I'll be darn.
And I used it till last year.
Yep.
We still use the boat.
Yeah.
Finally, the 18 give out on me. It was, I bought it in 1999. It gave out on me last year, and I bought it to Hatsu from Shandon at Mighty White.
That's true. And we hauled boatloads out.
But I always think about that in 20 years, you're from lying in the bottom of a 1436 holding a hole to this tower.
Yep.
That's amazing.
Well, and that
is amazing.
The first time I hunted that boat, I bought it right before Christmas, and I'd gotten some Christmas money. It's almost crazy to think about. I got some Christmas money to help pay for my half of that boat. And
that is awesome, dude.
I think I got a couple $100 from my grandmother, and that's what it took.
Thanks, Granny.
And the first day I hunted it, so I had Christmas with her, and a few days before anyway, cobbled up the money and got it all bought. First time I put it in the water was 1999. There was an ice storm that night. I slid off the road driving to Biomeda because Rainy Break had none. And I blew both lights out of my trailer, putting the boat
Yeah, back in the dinner.
Back in the ice.
And I gave 0.
Yeah.
I was so happy. I had my own boat. I was in Biomeda. We killed 2 mallards and a wood duck, and I was coming out
You show
like
me
a rutting buck. Man, I was so excited.
You showed me a duck boat in this state with both trailer lights working.
Show you a brand new one.
Exactly.
I mean, that's all
Poor guy
it
who
is.
doesn't really hunt.
That 100%. 100%.
No doubt.
So the first
that's
time
awesome.
the maiden voyage was at Biomeda at Lower Value.
I love it.
Yep.
Telling you, Jeff's story is an inspiration. Folks that want to like dog it and poor them.
Yep.
Because they're losing the story, the true story that he is an inspiration.
This podcast is not about me.
Yes.
But I spent this morning with my dad, 2 of my kids, and my best friend and his 2 kids on a place that had never been flooded, that wouldn't have even thought about being flooded had I have not had the privilege of being here.
That's awesome.
I mean, I'm just being honest about that.
That's awesome.
I spent a couple of years, hunting with you guys, and went home and I was like,
I'm gonna do this.
I'm gonna try this. Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
I mean, and
That's cool.
I don't have this many ducks yet, but but yet.
I love it. But hey, the duck hunter is ever the optimist.
Yeah.
Because if you weren't, you couldn't do duck hunting.
And one of the things I love, this is the last thing that's going to get said about me, because this podcast is not about me, but I love the fact that my kids ask me all the time, if we put water over there, do you think we could have as many ducks as Jeff has? You're like, no. I'm like, well, I mean, I don't have the heart to tell them no right now.
We'll have more than we have now.
It's like, the little Johnny joke. I like the way you're thinking.
Well, Keith just answered it. We'll have more than we have.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's what matters.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what matters.
I still do that.
One more.
I bought 180 acres that bordered the farm this year.
Yeah.
We built a levee and
a blind
hold another 30,
You've
40
done
acres
that, and
of
you've
water.
done that. You've done something like that, visionary, every year since I've known you. I mean, wouldn't you say, Keith? I mean,
100%.
and it's not always a cannonball, but it's something. It's a well, or it's a
gravel
relift, or it's gravel, or it's a fixture. A structure.
When
I mean,
I
it's
go
a something.
bankrupt, this is my public service announcement. So how all the people that listen to this, I don't know if it's 9 or 9,000, but all the people that listen to this, when I go broke, I'm selling gravel.
Yeah. You got to.
That's how I'm going to get my kids through high school.
Yeah, through gravel. He's in the gravel business. That's awesome.
I got some limestone up on this.
We got a buddy.
As someone who expensed gravel in calendar year 2023.
It's funny. We had a buddy come down from Missouri a couple years ago. We had a buddy come down from Missouri. He's a farmer. He's been around this type of thing for years, and that's the first thing that it struck him. He's a duck hunter. He wasn't impressed with the ducks. He goes, golly, he's got a lot of gravel. But that's interesting that he appreciated that.
Well, and it goes back to one of the things you said earlier about development and vision. I'll never forget the first time you drove me around this farm in the summertime. You said to me, the number one thing you can do to increase the value of your property is create access.
Yeah.
Make it so that you can drive a vehicle around it.
And
Not
use
everybody has an Argo or a swamp buggy or something like that. Like giving yourself.
And you don't want to use it, even if you have it. Would you rather drive down here in your pickup truck?
Right.
That's right.
3 years ago,
We couldn't get here.
on a muddy night
Couldn't
like
do that.
this, to get to the tower,
you
had to put on your waders because you get so freaking muddy in the 10 a.m.
And you tear something up, too.
You're right.
Inevitably, and the roads were a mess. And so just in the last 3 years, every year we do a little more gravel. A little more gravel.
That's right.
But that is, it's a never ending. There's always a new project. There's always a way to improve it. There's always a way to make it better. And I guess when I stop doing that, I will have fallen out of love with it, because I think I love the dreaming of the building of the habitat more than I love the hunt. And that sounds cheesy, and it probably doesn't sound authentic, but it's the truth. I mean, there's an excitement of watching the ducks come through the trees, but it's more of a realization of, what, that idea I had worked.
That worked. That's right.
What's really fun to me is the building of the project. And that's probably what's the most fun about when I built my business, White Oaks, development, the land development company, and that's definitely the most fun part about building Shin.
Yep.
And when Shin is done and I'm no longer integral in building it, that's fine. It'll be whatever it is, and I'll be a part of it. And but the most fun part about this place and Shin is building it. That's in my DNA.
That's American right there, buddy. There's nothing more
quintessential American dream.
Himself.
No doubt.
Yep.
No doubt. For just a second, now that you open the can of worms, give us the 50,000 foot view. Shin Gear is obviously alive and well, and I mean, it's everywhere.
Shin's been a lot of fun. I've got great partners, got a great team. I think as much as anything, I think we are creating lives for people.
Sure.
There's a whole bunch of employees that we are positively affecting their lives.
Sure.
And we're building a company, and the excitement of seeing the success of something you work so hard on is so fulfilling to me. And I don't know, there's something about the DNA of us, all three of us, and so many people. You work so hard and you want to see that success, and to see Shin take off, man, that is really, really rewarding. And there was a point when I was building my real estate company and was working so much, the other people that shared the office building with me made fun of me that my car was always there. They asked me if I ever went home, and my wife would get upset. We had young kids, are you ever going to stop working? And I just said, trust me. And in my heart and in my soul, I knew it. I hadn't made any money yet, but I knew it was there. Like in my mindset had changed. Even though I was still broke, my mindset changed from a broke person because I knew I was going to make it.
Yeah.
And that's how Shin feels.
You could see the vision of where you're going.
And I knew it. I knew everything in my heart and soul, everything in my DNA said, this is happening.
Yeah.
I don't care what everybody else says. No one else sees it. Nobody else sees what's going on behind the scenes. Nobody understands the mechanics behind it. I felt that when I built White Oak Development Company. I felt that when I built White Oaks Duckwoods. I feel that about Shin.
Yeah.
And man, that's an exciting feeling. And God, how blessed am I in this world that I've experienced that 3 times.
Yeah.
In my work life.
Yeah.
That's an excitement. That's a motivator for me.
Sure.
Maybe it doesn't motivate everybody. People are motivated by different things, but seeing the success, and I don't mean dollars. I mean just the company thrive.
Yep.
That fires me up.
Yeah.
And Shin is alive and well. And
I think it's so cool how Shin Gear has improved the quality of the hunting experience just for the average guy.
You got to talk to Jeff Jones about that. That guy's a freaking wizard, and he's the one who designs all the products. He's the genius behind it.
He is, and it's a team effort. I get all that. You're saying the right things, but I took my kids hunting this morning. My son has not ever put on a leaking pair of waders that
my God, he needs to. He needs to know what we went through.
Nor has my daughter.
I actually think that's bull. You should grow up.
Hey, that's bull junk.
Oh, that's right.
It's not
Coach Prime.
My 18-year-old son and I are working on us both not cussing as much. Yeah. So now we don't say it's bull S. We say it's bull junk.
Bull junk. Like Coach Prime.
Well, I'm not saying that they're perfect. I'm not saying that they're.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's different. It's a different ball game. The gear that you guys are putting out and the commitment to customer service and just the overall product, it's better. And it's, I mean, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, it.
Well, we do care a lot. Field, obviously one of the 4 owners, one of my partners, and he said it, and it crystallized it in my mind, and I've ripped it off from him, and I say it over and over again, but I got to give him credit. He said, as much as we're building a gear company, we're building a customer service company.
Right.
And if we build a customer service company and we create our focus is we're not building waiters, we're building a customer service company. And if you think about how to build your company that way, then you're always going to take care of your customers, because there's always product failures. There's going to be something wrong. There's going to be, hell, somebody got they'll probably get pissed at me for saying this, but somebody got a pair of waders, and the left foot and the right foot were backwards. Like, it was obviously
a mistake.
It was a mistake.
Sure.
Mistakes happen, but we really care about taking care of the customers and creating a relationship.
You didn't tell them to turn the waders around backwards and just wear them.
We didn't. We do care a lot about creating relationships with our customers.
Yep.
That's a big part of why we will only sell direct to consumer. Because if I go sell to a third party wholesaler like Bass Pro and all those are great places. God knows I've spent a fortune at all those stores. I don't have the relationship with the customer. So if you buy your waders at Walmart or Academy Sports or Bass Pro and there's a problem, well, Academy Sports didn't make the wader. And the people there that take the returns don't give a crap.
Right.
If there's a problem with the waders we built, you're going to call and you're going to get sweet old Morgan on the phone. And by God, she's going to take care of you. And we're going to make sure, if there's a problem, we fix it. Or if you've created a problem with your waders, you tore them on barbed wire or whatever, well, we're going to help you anyway. And we're going to get them fixed for you. And if you go through a third party or a wholesaler, a distributor, well, you lose that ability to have a one-on-one relationship with the customer. And that sounds a little cheesy, but it's real. And
it's very real.
And it allows us to be direct with our customer on any problems, concerns, and we hope when they come in the shop that they feel like family. And we're building another shop in Stuttgart. Spence, you're going to be a part of that, and I'm real damn excited about it. We hope to make a lot of friends down there, and Keith Allen and I are going to shoot ducks in the morning and drive down to the shop in Stuttgart. And I know Spence,
I've never wanted to buy a helicopter so bad in my life.
Shin Shop Bums. I've coined it. That's what we're going to be. Shin Shop Bums.
We're going to go hang out down there. It's going to have 2,500 square feet just of lounge, TV, 8-foot fireplace.
Hey, I'm going to be tuning pure ducks, baby. I can't wait.
Spence going to have his call shop there, and we're going to be able to watch football on the TV or whatever on the TV and hang out. And
such a cool thing.
It's going to be really fun. But again, the whole point of it is that's where the duck hunter is, and we need to have our shop there.
Sure.
You tear your waders. I don't care if they're Sitka waders or Drake waders. Bring them in. We'll fix them. Look, we all wear different stuff, but we're all out there chasing the same dream, which is let's have the perfect group of ducks land in our decoys with our best group of friends.
Amen.
I don't really care if you're wearing Drake waders or Sitka waders or Shin waders, but come on by the shop and let's have a good time. But I'm real excited about the shop in Stuttgart, and the biggest excitement of that is that's another contact point for all our customers. That's where all the hunters are. And there's nothing that's more fun than sitting around the shop and guy comes in, he just wants to talk about.
Yeah.
Some of them recognize me from my Instagram page and they're like, oh gosh, tell me about White Oaks. And some of them have no clue who I am and they just start talking about their place and we start talking shop. They got no clue, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
I love hearing it.
It's great.
And I bet you do too. I mean, you got to get the same thing at your shop in Somerville, right?
We had a guy yesterday, and I said I wasn't going to talk about me, but I'm going to tell this one because
this is the Rolling Thunder
self-deprecating story, okay? I had a guy yesterday. It's Friday afternoon. It was just me and Riley in the shop and the girls. We have a small rotation of men that can blow duck calls that have to be in the shop on Friday afternoon because the duck hunters are coming through, right? And I'm talking to this guy, and I get him a call lined out, and he rings out, and we shake hands, and he goes to leave, and he's talking to the girl at the front counter, which I think was my oldest daughter, Maddie, and he says, "What was that guy's name?" And she said, "Well, that's Dad." And he said, "That's his name?" She said, no, his name is Spence. And he literally, I swear this is the true story. He said, "Oh, that's the guy Drake Levy beat in 2016. He remembered that, didn't he? That's all he remembered. She came back there and she said, "Dad, you're not going to believe this. That guy, he knows you as the guy that got beat by Drake Levy in 2000.
He had no idea that you owned Rolling Thunder?
No clue.
That was your shop?
No clue. I was like,
but
that's
he knew
so
that
great.
Drake handed
that's perfect.
your butt to you.
That's right. That's great.
Oh, man. That's good stuff.
And there'll be plenty of that at the shop in Stuttgart.
It's going to be a hub for the culture.
Yep.
It's going to be so fun.
Because the common denominator, just like Jeff said, we all want the same thing. We all want to see that perfect group of ducks do it just one more time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's right. We're hoping that they have a bunch of water down there and everybody's excited and pulling a bunch of ratty duck boats in there. Of course, down there, they don't have anything but fancy duck boats down there.
They do have fancy ones.
Yeah.
Fast ones.
They do, man.
That's a whole other level.
Yeah, I'm glad that my youth did not include me having to race to duck holes because I'd have been wide open. I wouldn't have been good at it, but by God, I'd have been trying.
You'd have been injured.
That's true. I'd have been dead.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think we've kind of hit the rev limiter of time. Jeff asked, how long are these things? They're exactly 1 hour and 6 minutes and 49 seconds.
It flies, don't it, man?
I have thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope that it's not been too terribly painful.
No, it's been great. I enjoy it. And, well, I love chatting with you guys. So
I think
thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. You're always welcome. I think your story is fantastic. As Keith pointed out, it's the quintessential American story. It's inspiring to me constantly, because I'd be lying if I said I don't pull up to my, little 85 acres of water and see the 72 wood ducks and 2 mallards and think one of these days this could be.
Of the comment, but I feel genuinely undeserving of.
I get that
inspiration. Like
I get
to
that.
me, that labels me with a guy that's a better guy than me.
Well, when you go hard after something, it influences people, and I appreciate that about you. That's not why you did it. You didn't build. You stick your neck out there to try to influence people with white oaks, but it has positive. It's the ripple effect, I guess. And so,
Spence, he is way more concerned about where we're going to hunt in the morning than he is about inspiring people.
Exactly right.
Or being a big deal. In fact, he feels real little and small and trying to figure that out because he just doesn't have the power to know where do we go.
That's right. It's gotten dark, so we got to start worrying about that here pretty soon.
The conversation. So, Jeff, where are we going to hunt tomorrow?
I don't know.
Just to wrap us up, what are the 3 options? Well, give us.
God.
Oh man, they are getting to experience the real world here. This is like
there's 6 of us. It's a west wind. West wind sucks for the hog hole.
Yeah.
Tennessee would be good, but they're really east of the Tennessee hole. We went east of the Tennessee hole today, and it was really good. I hate to do it 2 days in a row.
But that's where we will go.
We got a hunt save there, but we could go south of the pump just by Crow's Nest. That'd be really good too, Keith. But with 6 people, that's tough. And little Jeff's going to be down there east of Jennings Lake. A lot of ducks
thinking
there. He went up to Maple Tree today. They mashed him in Maple Tree. I mean, by God, we could all go to Missouri Hole tomorrow. We'd be good. Keith would cook us breakfast. That'd be good, right?
In Missouri Hole,
but that's really not the X. But like you kill enough traffic there, it'd still be fun. But I want to go to the X.
Really hearing exactly what goes on in his brain.
Yes, this is fucking diarrhea of the mouth. We can go to Twin Oaks. Yeah. Twin Oaks works pretty good on the west wind. It's just kind of a thicket back there. They come in good. They come in good. We could also go to high-low. West wind, they're going to be belly up in your face.
Oh, no. We're not joking now. That
high-low would be unreal. I'll tell you what I thought about when I drove in.
We got problems, Spence. We got a lot of problems.
I come in the gate, and all I could think about, there's just solid mallards through those woods, and I thought, remember that time we just went to the pump up there at the gate
to the cotton trailer. To the cotton trailer.
Right?
Yeah.
And I just had this feeling. I was
we
like,
could go there. But my dad needs a walking cane. You have to walk about 150 yards. How you going to keep him? We could go hunt right by the lodge. But, I like watching the ducks by the lodge. But that's like the break glass in case of emergency hunt. Yeah. Like that, when if all else fails, you can go hunt there. I don't think we're at that point yet. We could try Jackson Hole, and then if it sucks, you could go to Eagle Lake, which that would be really quick. But Eagle Lake on the west end.
Eagle Lake, forgot about Eagle Lake.
If you think I'm editing this out, you're wrong.
He's not. He can't.
I'll wake up at 2 a.m. going, fucking Eagle Lake.
Well, here's the deal, though. We'll decide tonight, and it's still not settled.
No.
Tomorrow morning, we'll get back at it.
Yep.
The guy doesn't rest.
Resume around the coffee pot at 5 a.m.
High-low, the wind at high-low.
It'd be
Even
perfect.
if that's not the X, if you can
And
make
sunny.
a couple groups do it at high-low, it would be so beautiful. Like, it's almost worth going there.
Almost worth it.
Knowing that we may not kill a limit, and that's okay.
I promise you, we'll
But
get
if we
one
get
bunch.
one bunch in,
It'll
it would
be magic.
It would be magic. I think I'd rather kill 14 out of one bunch, and have it magic, and that'd be the only 14 we kill.
So it's the three of us and Dustin and your dad
and Paul Barcroft.
and Paul Barcroft.
6 total.
There's 6.
Sheesh.
That's 24 mallards. Hey, I'm going to give you the true scoop. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And I'll bet you any money we'll get 24.
We go. There you go. All right. Well, I'm going to bail everybody out here and wrap this one up. Thank y'all for listening.
How low it is.